Walk through any grocery store, and the most expensive things in it, gram for gram, are not the meat and not the seafood. The priciest foods in the whole building are small, green, and fragile. A tiny jar of saffron worth more than gold, a clamshell of microgreens, a handful of fresh herbs that cost more by weight than a good steak. And here is the strange part. Almost every one of them is expensive for the very same reason. It is too delicate, too perishable, or too slow to ship, which means no field can deliver it fresh, so you pay a fortune for a tired version flown halfway around the world. That same weakness is your opening. Every crop on this list will grow, fresh and year-round, on a single windowsill, in the space of a placemat, for a few dollars of seed. This channel is named for 1 acre of land, but you will not need an acre, or a garden, or even a balcony. You will need one bright window and a shelf. So here are 7 of the most expensive foods in the store, counting down from number 7 to the one that is, gram for gram, worth more than gold, and then the part that matters most, how to run all 7 as a single year-round system, so that Windowsill is producing something precious in every week of the year. Number 7 first. Number 7. Fresh gourmet herbs. Start in the produce aisle, at the single most overpriced thing in it by weight. A little plastic clamshell of fresh basil, tarragon, or dill is a couple of dollars for a few grams, most of it stem, and within days of getting it home it collapses into green slime in the fridge. Priced by the ounce, fresh-cut herbs sit among the most expensive foods in the entire store, and they are at their worst and their dearest in winter, when the shelf version has been flown in from the far side of the world and tastes of almost nothing. A windowsill erases all of it. Herbs are the easiest crop on this list to grow indoors, and a bright sill keeps them going straight through the cold months when the store price peaks. The trick is to grow only the expensive ones: basil, tarragon, chervil, dill, the delicate herbs that cost the most and ship the worst, and to skip the cheap, sturdy ones you can buy dried for pennies. You grow them cut and come again, pinching from the top so each plant branches and thickens instead of running to seed, and one well-pinched pot hands you more over a season than a dozen of those clamshells for the price of a single one. Here is the surprise. The herb that pays best is not the leaf at all. Let a little of your basil or cilantro flower and set seed, and you have just grown your own coriander seed and a tray of free next-generation plants, a second crop off a plant you already own. One pot, cut every week, all year, quietly replacing the most marked-up shelf in the store. Number 6 costs even more per ounce, and you harvest the entire crop in under 2 weeks. Number 6. Microgreens and sprouts. These are the clearest proof of the whole idea, because what makes them expensive is not size, it is speed. Microgreens, the tiny first shoots of crops like radish, peas, sunflower, and broccoli, sell for a striking premium per ounce at farmers' markets and to chefs because they are intensely flavored, delicate, and impossible to keep on a shelf for more than a day or two. A tray you grow for a couple of dollars of seed would cost you many times that in a store, if you could even find it fresh. Now do the thing no field and no season can. You scatter the seed thick across a shallow tray with barely any soil, no depth needed, set it on the windowsill, and about 10 to 12 days later you cut the whole tray with scissors. Then you start another and another. A field gives one harvest a year, maybe 2. One windowsill gives you a fresh tray every week, dozens of cuttings off the same square foot in the time an outdoor bed is still working on its first, and it does it in January exactly as well as in June, because indoors there is no season at all. And if you want the same thing with 0 soil and 0 light, drop to sprouts, a spoon of seed in a jar, rinsed twice a day on the kitchen counter, edible in 3 or 4 days in total darkness. That is the real secret the store can never charge you for. It is not the size of the harvest, it is how many times a year you take one. Number 5 is the crop restaurants quietly pay a fortune for by the petal. Number 5. Edible flowers. This is the one most people have never once thought to grow, and it may hold the widest gap on this whole list between what the seed costs and what the finished crop is worth. Nasturtiums, violas, and borage are among the cheapest, easiest seeds on the rack, the kind you buy for $1 and scatter without a second thought. But their flowers, fresh, are a luxury garnish that high-end restaurants and cake makers pay a startling amount for by the small box, precisely because a picked flower lasts a day and cannot be shipped or stored, so there is no acre of them anywhere to undercut you. You grow them in a sunny window box of ordinary mix, and most will bloom within weeks of sowing and then keep throwing flowers for months, especially if you keep picking, because removing the blooms pushes the plant to make more. The trick is to grow the ones that are both beautiful and genuinely useful. Nasturtium leaves and flowers are peppery and edible whole. Borage tastes of cool cucumber. Violas candy beautifully for a cake. Here is the spike. The same plant hands you a second premium crop that most people throw away. Nasturtium seed pods, picked green, can be pickled into a caper, so a packet of the cheapest flower seed on the shelf has now produced 2 of the priciest things on a restaurant plate. Number 4 brings the heat, and a single plant of it can fruit on your sill for months. Number 4. Gourmet Chilies. Fresh specialty peppers are quietly one of the better crops to grow for value because the interesting ones almost never reach a normal store, and when they do, they are priced like a delicacy. Shiso peppers, the sweet hot Japanese frying pepper, sell for a premium. Fresh, rare aji and super hot varieties are sold in some cases by the single pod because the seed is scarce and the fruit does not ship. A pepper plant is built for a windowsill. It is compact, it flowers and sets fruit indoors without any help from bees because chili flowers pollinate themselves, and a single plant in a bright window will fruit heavily for months. You start the seed warm, give it the brightest sill you have, and once it sets, it just keeps producing pod after pod. Now the surprise most gardeners miss: a chili is not really an annual. Outdoors, the frost kills it every autumn, and everyone treats it as a one-season plant, but on a warm windowsill it simply keeps living. Over winter, that same plant indoors, and in its second year it starts earlier, grows into a small woody bush, and out-yields everything it did the first, so year 2 is free and larger than year 1. One pot, one plant, fruiting on a shelf while it snows outside. That is the first 4. Herbs, microgreens, edible flowers, and chilies, the fast and the fresh, the crops that are expensive simply because they cannot survive the trip from a farm to your shelf. The top 3 are a different order of value. These are the ones where the price of the finished crop climbs so high that a single windowsill of it starts to sound absurd. Before we get there, a quick question, and I do read every answer. Which of these 7 did you have no idea you could grow indoors? Tell me in the comments. Now, number 3. Number 3. Gourmet mushrooms. Fresh oyster and lion's mane mushrooms sell for a price per pound that makes most vegetables look free, and lion's mane in particular is a specialty crop you mostly find at premium markets if you find it at all. Here is the line that breaks every rule so far. This crop does not even need the windowsill. It needs no soil, no sunlight, and no land of any kind. You grow it from a block or a bucket of pasteurized straw or sawdust mixed with spawn, tucked in a closet, a cupboard, or under the kitchen sink, in the dark and the damp it actually prefers. There is no simpler start than a ready-made kit. You cut a slit, mist it twice a day, and within a couple of weeks mushrooms come pushing out in a cluster, and the same block flushes again and again, several harvests from one filling. A single block can give you more than a pound of gourmet mushrooms at a flush in the one corner of your home that grows nothing else. on no schedule but its own, in the dead of winter as easily as high summer. It is pure value conjured out of a dark cupboard, and it turns the least usable square foot in the house into the most valuable one. Number 2, you grow from a knob you can buy in that same store for pocket change. Number 2, ginger and turmeric. Both are tropical roots, which is exactly why they are expensive. Across most of the country, it is far too cold for a field to grow them, so nearly every piece in the store is imported, and the fresh organic root sells at a steep premium over the dried powder. But warmth is the only thing they truly need, and a sunny indoor windowsill is the one place a cold climate home can reliably give them that all year. Here is the almost magical part: you do not buy seed for these. You buy one plump knob of ginger from the grocery store for pocket change, the kind with little nub buds starting to swell. Lay it just under the surface of a wide, shallow pot of rich mix, keep it warm and bright, and that single knob multiplies over the season into a pot full many times its size. The real prize is not the mature root at all. It is baby ginger, the young, pink-tipped, tender, fresh rhizome that almost never reaches a supermarket because it will not survive long shipping, and sells highest of all wherever you can find it. A warm windowsill grows it easily, and a single pot routinely returns a pound or more of fresh rhizome, turning a $1 knob into a crop worth many times it, grown from something you already had sitting in the kitchen. Number 1 is the most valuable spice on earth, and it grows from a dinner plate pot on that same sill. Number 1. Saffron. This is the crop that makes the title of this video literally true, because saffron is the most valuable spice on earth by weight, worth more, gram for gram, than gold, and a tiny jar of it carries a price that shocks people who have never had to buy it. It comes from the saffron crocus, a small autumn-flowering bulb, and each delicate flower offers just 3 crimson threads, its stigmas, that have to be picked out by hand. That hand labor is the entire reason it costs a fortune in the store, and the entire reason growing your own is such an outrageous bargain. You plant the corms in late summer in a shallow, free-draining pot, the most ordinary container on this whole list. Keep it in the brightest spot you have, and in autumn the flowers open. Each morning through the bloom you pluck the 3 red threads from every flower and dry them on a saucer, and a pot no bigger than a dinner plate, packed with corms, can produce a meaningful pinch of the world's costliest spice for the price of a bag of bulbs. Then the part that turns a trick into a blueprint. The corms multiply underground every single year, each one splitting into several, so the pot you paid for this autumn hands you 2 pots worth of corms for free the next, and more the year after. The single most expensive thing in the store, growing on a saucer of soil in your window. That is why it is number 1, and it points straight at the last and most important part of this video. Here is the part the whole list was building toward, and the reason this is a system and not just 7 ideas. A single windowsill has one weakness: space. You cannot grow all 7 at once. But you do not need to, because their timings fit together like gears, and the goal is simply this: never let the sill sit empty, run it in layers. The fast layer never stops, a tray of microgreens and a jar of sprouts, started fresh every single week, all year, in any weather, so there is always something to cut in the next 10 days. The block of mushrooms sits in its dark cupboard on the same weekly rhythm, owing nothing to the seasons at all. Around that constant base, rotate the season crops through the bright months, herbs pinched all spring and summer, edible flowers blooming from late spring, a chili plant fruiting from midsummer and then overwintered on the sill to run again next year. And anchor the calendar with the 2 multipliers: ginger knobs planted in spring for an autumn harvest, saffron corms planted in late summer for an autumn bloom, both of them handing you free stock for the following year. Then bank what stores. Dried herbs, dried mushrooms, dried saffron threads, and cured ginger all hold their value for months in a jar with no fridge at all, carrying the summer's abundance across the lean weeks of deep winter. Layered that way, one bright window produces something precious in every week of the year: greens in days, mushrooms in a fortnight, fruit and flowers through the warm months, spice in the autumn, and a full pantry to bridge the gaps. That is the windowsill money system. Not a bigger space, a smarter schedule. So those are 7 of the most expensive foods in the store, and the single system that grows all of them on nothing more than one bright windowsill, all year round. This channel is called 1 Acre Blueprint, and by now the real lesson is clear. The blueprint was never about the acre or even the garden. It is about value per square foot, and the richest square foot you own might be the shelf inside your kitchen window. Pick one to start this week. The microgreens are the fastest reward, the mushrooms are the most hands-off, and the saffron is the one that will genuinely astonish you. Subscribe to stay on the 1 Acre Blueprint, because next we take this value idea back outdoors and settle it for good. The exact high-value crops that turn the smallest backyard into the most productive patch of ground on the street. And tell me in the comments, which of these 7 is taking the first spot on your windowsill?